Welcome to the Effin Alchemy Podcast, a safe space for each other and you, our fellow alchemists, created through authentic vulnerability, respect, honesty, and trust. By working through our day-to-day experiences together and being transparent and relatable, we invite you to take comfort in where you currently are in your journey, knowing you are exactly where you're meant to be, you are seen, and you are never alone. Hi, I'm Cate, claircognizant woo goddess of Violet Feather Alchemy, bringing you downloads from the spiritual world.
And I'm Amy, audacious empowerment queen of Effin Creative, daring you to unleash your creatrix. This is the Effin Alchemy Podcast,
where vulnerable synergy begets effin magic.
Episode 10, Authentic This Way.
Hello, alchemists. On our season finale, we'll be discussing showing up authentically and trusting where that can lead us. Let's make some magic.
Cate, I'd like to ask you what authenticity means to you and how you show up authentically in your own life.
Ooh, this is good. I like this. So, for me, authenticity is the courage to always show up as yourself in the current state that you are, no matter what that looks like. If you're a hot mess, if you have a day where you have it all together, if you're depressed, if you're really exuberant and joyful and taking up a lot of space, whatever that looks like, that to me is what authenticity is. And that takes courage to be authentic. And I know I go back to social media a lot. It seems to be harder and harder to do that these days because people either want or expect a polished finish of you or whatever it is that they're consuming. They want a polished or finished product. Humans are not products, and we're constantly in flux. So we have good days, we have challenging days, and not covering it up and buffing it out and polishing it up to make it always look like we have perfect sunny days is important. It's important to show the reality because perfectly polished is an impossible thing to achieve. We're never going to be perfectly polished, and anybody presenting themselves that way is not being truthful, is not being forthcoming. Authenticity is about being true to yourself and presenting yourself as you truly are. Another important component of that is to show up and do what's best for you. This has been a thing for me because I've owned businesses, many different kinds, for many different years. And over the years, the way that I look at showing up has evolved. It's very, very different. One of my very early businesses, I remember being super stressed out, and I remember being like, oh, I have to be on every venue of social media or I'm not going to get noticed, or, oh, I have to check off all of these boxes, or my business isn't going to be successful, or just a bunch of really overwhelming thoughts and overwhelming boxes for me to check. And as I learned with each business that I had, and I learned and I navigated through it, what I found was the more I conformed to what was expected of me by society, the more I was not failing in what I was attempting to do, but the more energy was contracted around what I was doing. And I finally got so sick of fighting an uphill battle that I was never going to win with the machine, if you will, that I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to do this my way. And so I started doing things my way. I'm like, fuck the social media presence, fuck, LinkedIn, fuck, writing a business plan by some old banker's book. Like, fuck all of this shit. I'm going to do me and how this makes sense to me and what I'm doing and what I'm creating. As I began to fully embody that authenticity of how I operate inherently and my nature and how I move through the world and how I understand and comprehend the experiences that I have. Once I shifted into doing things my own way, I started to become very abundant and successful in my businesses. My businesses started to thrive. I started to reach more people. I got amazing opportunities that I didn't even have to try to even find. And it speaks to showing up authentically really is about being not only in alignment with your internal self, but it's also about being in alignment with the external world. And I don't mean conforming to the external world. I mean aligning yourself so that you are guided through the world in ways that allow for flow, which I think it's super powerful, but it can be challenging. It can be challenging to constantly show up authentically, though. But when you do show up authentically, that's really what puts you in alignment with your calling and your path. As I've come through and had a lot of success and abundance by coming across and acting and navigating authentically, I have woven that into my businesses. So one of my businesses, I was a women's empowerment coach for women that wanted to start their own business, like new entrepreneurial women. And part of what I really stressed in this coaching was the world is going to tell you to do it one way. What if we came over here and looked at it in a way that was conducive for your mental health, for your well-being, for your success? Why not make the world fit into your box instead of trying to shove yourself into the world's box? Like, fuck the algorithms. Fuck what everybody says you have to do 6 Instagram reels a day in order to have any kind of relevance. Fuck that shit. With that, I also think it's important to take a look at how you define success and how your authenticity can lead to your definition of success. Because for me, my definition of success looks a lot different than most of capitalist America's definition of success. Mine looks very different. And in order to achieve a different vision of success than what society typically focuses on, of course you have to do things differently. Like, it wouldn't make any sense to do it any other way. By doing that, I'm highly successful, I'm highly abundant, I'm highly fulfilled, and I never have to want in my businesses because the magnetism of being aligned, the magnetism of being authentic, that shit will come to you. You don't even have to fucking try. You just allow it. You align yourself, you show up true to who you are, and you're going to magnetize that. It's like you become a magnet, and all of that high vibrational abundance is going to flock to you, and the opportunities are going to flock to you. And I'm so grateful I figured this out and I'm still relatively young. I really am, because I really feel like authenticity is the key to life, because everything, if you truly distill it down, everything comes back to that authenticity piece. I mean, again, what are you doing? Like I always say, if you're not showing up authentically, or if you're not being present in life, what are you doing? That's why we're put here. We're put here with our own individual set of gifts, of physical traits, of emotional states. We're put here as a unique individual to experience life as a human. We are doing ourselves disservices if we're not showing up authentically and we're not being present and we're not marching to the beat of our own drum. And with that, that can be scary. It can be scary to put yourself out there authentically because you're going to get criticism. There are going to be people out there who find fault with that, who will say, well, you're never going to be successful, or you're stupid, you shouldn't do it that way, or just the negativity that comes with being successful. It's a natural ebb and flow of the universal energies. But with that, I love this quote. It's a quote from Taylor Swift, and it's something she said one time that I just absolutely love. And she was in an interview, and she said, the worst kind of person is someone who makes you feel bad, dumb, or stupid for being excited about something. And she's absolutely 100% right about that. And it really speaks. That quote is about being authentic, showing up, having your needs, your likes, your desires, and not being afraid to share those things with the world. And anybody who criticizes you for that shit can go fuck right on off. And it can be easy to kind of perceive me, oh, well, Cate, are you just hardened? Like, you're just kind of going onto the hardened side, like putting up a shield about this. And I can understand where they...
I didn't say anything.
No, but I can understand where that may come across that way. But really, it goes back to owning your power and owning and knowing who you are. And not that you're being nasty to somebody saying, go fuck off. It's just saying that what you think about me does not matter because I know who I am and I am operating in an aligned and appropriate manner for my experience in this lifetime.
Mic drop. Yeah.
You look a little scared over there today.
I'm not scared at all. I ain't scared. I ain't scared at all. I totally vibe on what you're saying with the showing up authentically and not having to try for opportunity or flow to come your way. And I experienced that with Effin Creative, my brand and design business, and how my clients have, shown up at my doorstep and the amazing people that I've worked with, and showing up in that business authentically, even from the first touch point I have with a potential client, I know there's kind of a set process that I'm putting them through, kind of like, are you going to jump through this hoop? Are you going to jump through this hoop? Are you going to jump through this hoop? Right? Because these are my boundaries and my parameters of working with me versus me going out and seeking people to work with.
Correct.
Sort of thing, right? Like not once have I had to market, have I had to post, have I had to beg, have I had to, knock on doors for any flow and abundance in that business. And I attribute it all to, from day one, from anybody who does come into my world, is like, this is me, this is how I talk, this is how I act, this is what I can do, and I'm fucking awesome at it.
And you are, by the way. You're amazing at what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And it's showing up in that way from the onset of the first point of the relationship. And from there, being of service and delivering on being myself throughout the entire thing in the middle of working with someone, that once it's all said and done for, we've honored both sides of the agreement, then I just kind of like kick back, and then I know that the next thing is going to show up. Like, I never once have been stressed out about, and this is going on like 7 years now, not once have I been stressed out about like, where's my next client coming from? And I see those posts where it's like, need help getting clients, and like, here's the 10-step thing you can do to get more clients or whatever. Yeah. And I fucking delete them because I'm like, that's dumb. That's not how you do it. Right? Like, it also goes back to like, can I explain how I do that? I don't know. But to me, it's just like, I'm showing up, I'm being me from the very beginning.
Consistency.
And I'm consistent about it. And I'm honoring the relationship, and I'm taking care of that person or that group of people when I'm working with them. And they've had such an amazing experience working with me, and I've had such an amazing experience and honor working with them, that there is this symbiotic benefit from it that like, then they go out and market the shit for me. I don't have to fucking do it.
Right.
Because I've put in the effort of being myself. And they're like, and when people come to me, they're like, not because, oh, it was the best design I've ever seen or the best strategy or the best brand or, website or whatever other bullshit that I do or have done, let's say. And we'll touch on that. We'll wrap this all up with a nice pretty bow. But not that my work doesn't speak for itself, because it does.
It does.
It's fucking awesome and I'm awesome. So But
yes.
like it's never been about that. It's always been like, oh, so-and-so told me I need to work with you because of you.
Right.
Not in so many words. But
you are your brand.
Yeah, that's how I have built that. And I think that's the same thing about what you're saying with your businesses is like, it's never been about chasing the lead or chasing the client. It's just been about like, this is me. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is what I can offer you.
Right.
Do you want coffee? Yes or no? You want it? Yeah, cool. All right. We're going to have a great fucking experience and relationship out of this. If you don't, that's cool. I'm not for you.
Correct.
And the fuck right off kind of thing with love, right?
With
like
love.
You can fuck right off with love and go find whoever else you want to work with. That's not me. That's in the professional capacity. And I think with the social media stuff, like, I think it all depends on how you approach it and how you look at it, where if you're doing your due diligence to show up authentically just in your real life, not even your
not a curated
computer
not
life,
a curated
say,
life
or
online.
your internet life.
Yeah.
That yes, having a presence if you choose to share online, that's cool. But that's not the only means of being successful.
Right, it's not.
And kind of keeping up with the Joneses, like, you got to post and you got to do this and you got to do that. And here's your strategy. And every week, and if you don't do this, then you've fallen off the rails. And it's like, I don't fucking have time for that
true.
shit.
Nobody,
like,
and yeah.
I've
No.
never done that. And
Yeah.
and I've had amazing, tremendous success.
Yes.
And I've been able to build my fucking life how I want it to be around that by just, as you said in the beginning, choosing me and doing me.
you. Yeah.
Side note, I personally just use social media and I curate the best of the best of the best because I use it as like a fucking scrapbook. So to me, like, it's like, am I going to put the picture where somebody's like looking off into fucking space or, picking a booger or whatever? No, like I want like the best photo because that's what I'm going to put in my album. So for me, like that's how I use it.
Yep.
And I curate it intentionally for me. And I almost feel like putting a disclaimer on every single post, like, this shit is for me so I can go back in my memories and look at it. I'm not posting this for you to like see and
a perfect life.
Yeah, and like, oh, I'm just putting this out there as me. Like, no, it's like, no, I want to go back in a couple years and be like, oh, that vacation, like, oh, those were, whatever. Like to me, it's just like I'm posting that shit for me, so I have a memory bank of it online.
Yeah.
Personally. Side note tangent, but yeah.
Important to note, though. Important to note.
Distinguishing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to that point, like with the perfection thing and coming from a not closeted perfectionist, like I am a full-blown perfectionist. Mm-hmm. And that lends itself to being even better at what I'm able to create for people. That attention to detail is so meticulous. And that's one of the things that's great about what I'm able to create is I think about every fucking minute detail and it has to be perfect. And that's the distinguishing difference between the output on that. But as a whole person, being a perfectionist and I wouldn't even say recovering, but like just like a stage 1 perfectionist, like I'm aware of it. Not ready to totally let it go. But like, I also think there's authenticity in perfection because you're showing up as your full self, which is perfect. It's not like you are a perfect expression of yourself in all facets, whether it's, again, like we talked about, like the different versions of yourself, whether that's the waking up first thing in the morning trash monster, whether it's glammed out for your photo shoot, whether it's, you on a Tuesday running errands, like, or showing up to deliver on something in front of tons of people, like whatever that is, like, and all the fucked up shit in between, like there is perfection in all of that because it's a perfect expression of you and a perfect expression of all the different versions and avatars of yourself throughout the ebb and flow of life. So continuing to show up how you're feeling on any given day, like, and being authentic in that, there is perfection in that.
That's a very interesting take on that, because I've never really considered that before, because it's an interesting concept. Because when you tend to think of perfection, you tend to think of kind of like your photo albums. You think of carefully curated and presenting a certain image, which if you're trying to present a certain image, what are you hiding, or what are you not willing to show? It's kind of like lying by omission. It's like you're showing this one facet of yourself, but where is the rest of the facets of that? So it's a very interesting conversation, because you're right. You're always perfect. In any given moment, the whole of you is always perfect. But maybe the discrepancy comes into the actual nuances of perfection, and perfection in the terms of curated, not in wholeness, right? Because in wholeness, everything is perfect and just as it is. But in terms of perfection with a bent of a curated definition, that's where it's like, can you have authenticity in something that's been curated? Because it seems like, by very definition, if you're curating something, you're leaving the other parts out. So is it even possible to have that?
I think it goes hand in hand with self-compassion, though, because let's say you wake up and it's the middle of the week and you're just not feeling it. Like, and you have client calls, or you've got, an appointment with somebody that you need to make or whatever. And I think the authenticity part comes in being aware of like what your needs are in any given moment too. Because if it's just a day where you're like off and you're not feeling it and you need to take that time and rest, like you need to be aware of it. You need to recognize it, and you need to act on it, and you need to communicate it. You don't just need to like try to fucking power through and be like, oh, I can't tell someone that I can't make it today because that's the end of the fucking world, or like cancel a call or whatever. Like, if you need the fucking space and time, honor yourself, take that space and time, be authentic to what you need at that given moment, honor it and follow through on it.
That's showing up authentically.
Yeah. So I think that all ties together, because if you're gassed, let's say, like, and you're trying to show up and deliver on something, or hold space for a client or whatever, or for your family or anything, like, and you're just not in that space, you're doing everybody a disservice anyways, because you're not showing up as your fucking true self. Like, you need to go recharge and then come back and then be able to hold that space. But like, if you're just burning out, that's not being authentic. That's just like going out in robot mode and trying to fucking power through. So it's a slippery slope.
It is. It is a slippery slope. So let's talk about some of the ways that we can create more authenticity. One of the things that we can do is just that. We can drop the pretenses and just show up as ourselves, just like you just talked about. We can honor our bodies. We can do whatever we need to practice self-compassion and put ourselves first. Don't try to be someone that you're not. And especially like in situations where you have to engage with other people, because people can see right through this. And I guess this is actually a little bit more prevalent with regards to showing up authentically in your business and just being yourself in your business, because people can see through that, and then you lose accountability and trust in your brand, because people are like, oh, well, that seems not quite aligned. She's not showing up like as who she truly is. So can I trust her brand or, her services or her offerings? Because, she's not really showing up authentically as herself. Like, I don't know if you've come across that in what you've experienced, but to me, I can always sense when something is amiss and somebody's faking or trying to put on a happy face to get through a YouTube video or something like that. You can always tell.
Yeah, I think that comes down to consistency doesn't mean constantly.
Yes, that's an important differentiation on that.
Because if you're being consistent in who you are and showing up as who you are, does that mean that constantly you need to be churning out content or like
No.
posting or, trying to keep that brand persona going? And I think depending on how much you're willing to share with people and be vulnerable and open that door is sometimes not, I think, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it comes back to like taking the time for yourself. And one of the ways to like keep showing up authentically is building those connections with people and having solid, grounded relationships, having open communication, having a dialogue and a safe space that you can say, yeah, today I'm fucking on, let's go, right?
Yeah.
Like, here we go. I'm pumped and let's do this. And also the space and time and communication to say, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
And that to be received, and building those relationships intentionally with people who will do the same to you, and that you have a trusting baseline of communication with them so that you can express when you're not off and it's not taken personally. It's not taken as laziness. It's not taken as being weak. It's not taken as any of those kind of like yucky adjectives. It's just taken as honor and respect to a fellow human being that is a human being. Yeah, and honoring that and speaking it. And I think that that's, for me, like one of the things I've been working with, and I think I cracked through in some previous episodes, if you've listened to that, is easily communicating my needs. And again, authenticity. Am I being true to myself? Am I being authentic if I'm needing something and not like, oh, I need shoes. Like, that's not what I mean. But like, am I needing something in a relationship? Or am I needing something? And honestly, it's not even usually something. Most of the time, if it's me needing to communicate my needs, it's for space. Mm-hmm. And so like, am I honoring my body's and spirit's call for space to process, to sit with, to be creative, to be self-compassionate, to open up, to receive, all of those things. If I'm pressed for space and I don't communicate that and I'm not authentic in how I'm expressing that I need that, I'm doing a disservice to myself. I'm doing a disservice to those around me. And how that ripples out into other facets of my life, whether it's business, pleasure, play, whatever, that has a repercussion. And so for me, like being authentic is showing up and communicating when I have a need that I have to have expressed and doing so.
Yeah.
Because when I don't, that's when shit goes sideways.
Yeah. Because that'll build resentment over time.
Sure.
And it'll just fester and cause problems. And I think this point that we're talking to right now, the creating connection, not only with the people that you're engaging with, but also with yourself, like you're talking about the honoring of the self, the creating of the connection. This point is probably the most profound for me and what I've experienced in having a successful business, but also successful relationships. It's all about having an understanding with other humans. It is the basic need for communication. And to have that vulnerably and authentically and have it be received and you being understood. And you can even extend that further to your connection to yourself, but also the connection to the higher, the intuition state. This connection is really what pulls all of this together, the authenticity piece, because as you said earlier, we're all facets of a bunch of different things, right? Like there's different pieces of us that need different things. But it's the connective bonds is what really promotes, I think, the authenticity of who we are. Because we don't exist in a vacuum, right? Like the truth of the matter is that we engage with other humans around us, we engage with our environment, and having an understanding with those things makes up pieces of us. For me, this one, the connection piece is probably the most important. But there's one other piece that I want to bring into the conversation today about authenticity, and that has to do with being of service to others. And I'm not saying you should go out and go build Habitat for Humanity because it looks good on your resume.
I roofed a house. It was
No,
really
and
fun.
there's nothing wrong with that. And Habitat for Humanity is wonderful. No, that's
I'll never do it again. It was
you're
awesome.
like, one time, that was it. But it's not, again, talking about authenticity, we don't do these things for show. We do them to again, going back to the connection piece, to connect with other humans and being of service to other humans, to help other people, to let them feel seen, to let them know they're not alone. And that's part of, one of the really big reasons why we're doing this podcast is to be of service. If anybody can relate or connect or feel seen or feel validated if they need that, then wonderful. We're happy to be of service by showing up authentically and being vulnerable and allowing these deep conversations to take place in front of an audience.
With a trench coat. I'm not taking off my trench coat anymore. Just kidding. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can only be of service when you're in line with your intuition, and that being your guide of how, right? Like,
it's like your roadmap.
Yeah, it is. And when you're not connected to that, and you said like being connected to yourself, there is a dissonance between you just sort of floating around in space and being reactive to life and not making decisions or making ones that don't serve your higher self. And again, it goes back to having space to listen and hear that and trust and follow it and stop looking externally for answers that I already have on the inside that I know to be true, that I know that will guide me, that will tell me the next step of what I need to do, that I already have all of the knowledge, I have all of the requirements, I have all of the education. Now, granted, like, I love to learn new shit all the time, so that will never stop happening. But
that doesn't mean you're currently not qualified to do whatever it is you're doing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I don't need, like external validation to take a step, to take a leap, to trust that what it's telling me is going to be okay, and I will land on my feet and I will figure it out.
So where do you feel authenticity shows up with imposter syndrome? Because I think that this happens quite a bit, like kind of what you were talking about, like, no, you have enough education. You don't need any more workshops or developmental things to be valid and to be able to help other people and charge money for your services. And I know at some point we all feel imposter syndrome with what we're doing. Anytime we create something on our own and we have our own business, it's like, man, do I really know what I'm doing here? Like, should I even be doing this? Like, am I even qualified to be doing this? But I think that is kind of authenticity. The fact that you're, that you're showing up and
I have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
You're questioning.
Here I am.
Yeah. But you're showing
little
up.
Voice told me to be here, so like, you guys figure it out. I don't know.
No, but do you have any experience with imposter syndrome?
Fuck yes.
And then wrestling with authenticity? And is having imposter syndrome actually authentic?
Fuck yeah.
Right? Like, is it?
It's a pain in the ass.
Yes.
Yeah. Totally. And yeah, kind of want to kick in his balls sometimes because, like, what purpose is it's like a mosquito. To me, imposter syndrome is like a mosquito. Like, other than, oh wow, I could have just blew my own mind. Mosquitoes are for population control. So maybe no, everybody needs to honor their own light. I'm not going to go there. So, yes, imposter syndrome, like every day, all day. During COVID, one of my friends got me super into Drag Race, and I fucking love it. I fucking love it so much. It's so good. But one of the things that RuPaul always says is like, you know, when they get in their mode of self-doubt, whether they're, you know, whatever challenge that he's presented to them and they're trying to figure out like, what is this character or how do I execute it? Or, you know, they kind of get in their own heads and he always comes along and does a check-in and is like, well, is that you talking or is that your inner saboteur? And I love that because it totally is. And they're always like, oh, yeah, that's totally my inner saboteur. And even giving it a name, naming that inner saboteur, whatever you want to name it, and almost building a persona around it. And again, when it creeps up, bitch, go have a snack, have a seat. Thank you for your input. I appreciate you trying to keep me safe and protected and stuck in this one spot. However, we're not
doing that today. No, we're not.
We're going to move forward and we're going to take a leap of faith and we're going to move the needle today. We're not just going to stay paralyzed.
I like that concept of making the saboteur like almost like a separate entity. Like they're part of you, but you're separating it out and not disassociating, but unattaching from it and being like, you're here and I acknowledge that you're here.
And thinking it.
Yeah, but this is not me. This is something different going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it comes from a self-preservation standpoint, right? Like it's a very fear-based concept that is almost, I look at it this way. It's like when my imposter syndrome is kicking in, that usually means I'm on the right track. Mm-hmm. If it's not talking, then I'm not doing something that I'm supposed to be doing. Or, you know what I mean? Like it's not the right challenge or it's not the right direction or whatever. But when that thing starts chattering like a fuck and like, I'm like, oh.
You're like, I'm onto something
I
now.
must be onto something because you won't shut the fuck up. And you're piping up because we're stepping into the unknown. And when you step into the unknown,
that's where the fear creeps up.
That's where your fear creeps up. And then that's where your leap of faith comes in. And that's when you're usually blown the fuck away about something that you could not even possibly imagine showing up and presenting itself. That's how I like to reframe it so that I don't get caught up in the swirling vortex of being paralyzed or not moving or any of those kind of things.
Yeah. Anything that's going to hold you back.
Yeah. And for me, like it pops up a lot, or it has popped up a lot recently because I am in a state of like pivoting what I want to do. And so being perceived as one person who does brand, does strategy, does design, and is fucking awesome at it. And you know this because I've told you many times, but like, yeah, I'm so good at it and I can do it. But it's like at this point in my life, in my season of life, it's so draining to me.
Yeah.
That
it's just
it does not energize me anymore. And I think part of that grief thing kicks in too, where it's like I'm having to grieve my former self of who, you know, I've been identified with for a long time and what has served me for a really long time. And I love it. And it's a huge part of me. But I'm at a stage now where that's another thing that I have to let go. And that's scary because that's like wrapped up in my identity.
Yeah, it is.
And who I've kind of become. And so now I'm at this place where I'm stepping into a new version of myself that's leaving that behind. It's scary. It's unknown. My imposter syndrome is like, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You need to take another class. You need to take another webinar. You need to take another, get another mentor. You need to take another certification. You don't have all the chops to do this, right? And I'm like having to remind myself, or even it's really great when you have a support system who can remind you of it too, and being like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you got this. You're like, a master.
It's fine. Like you know the shit. And it's listening to that intuition and knowing that you're on the right track. And even though you're like, I don't know where the fuck I'm going to land, but you have to leap because otherwise, you're just staying stuck.
Yeah.
And that's not being authentic to yourself because your higher self is like, hello, like, come on,
like,
let's go.
We're moving forward here. Can you please step on the train and let's go?
And if you're digging in your heels, like, you're not honoring that part of yourself either. You're not being authentic to that. You're like, no, I'm just going to stay here and stay put. And
you can't, because everything, like we talk about all the time, everything's always in flux.
Yeah.
You got to keep moving forward, even if just one step at a time.
Yeah.
So, fellow alchemists, have you been showing up authentically? If not, what is one shift you can make today to be more aligned with your true self? Thank you for joining us for our first season of Effin Alchemy. It has been an honor to share this experience with you. Be sure to join us for season 2.
Until then, stay effin' magical. Ready to create more magic? For additional episodes and insights, go to effinalchemy.com. EFFINALCHEMY.com.